Dreading going to work tomorrow? At least you haven't been dead for 200 years. Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be talking about Alien Resurrection. And this is another film in the franchise that people either just absolutely hate, like Alien 3, or they are defenders and think it's a harmless, not necessarily masterpiece, but a great addition to the franchise. And I do fall more on the, I think it's harmless and actually a lot of fun, and I enjoy this film. And if you've watched my Alien 3 review, you know how much I despise that movie, but this one I much more enjoy. This film has a star-studded cast. It's got Sigourney back, Ron Perlman, and Winona Ryder, along with some other actors and actresses that you'll probably recognize. Everyone in this is pretty decent actor or has been in other films. I mean, I recognize everybody. Whether you like this film or you don't like it, one thing that I think most people agree on is it starts out pretty quick, whereas Alien 3 is definitely a slow film. This one immediately gets into the action, and you probably wonder, how did Sigourney Weaver come back for another role as Ripley? And what happens is this movie takes place 200 years after Ripley has died. Somehow they've gotten samples of her blood and are able to clone her, and her clone actually has an alien queen inside her that she was, supposed to kill at the end of the third movie, and they get it out of her. Ripley now is actually part alien, and again, she's a clone, so it's not really the exact same Ripley, but she has all the memories of Ripley, plus now she's got alien DNA in her somehow, and she can feel the aliens and what they're thinking, and you learn this whole side of the alien species that they inherit memories that they pass on to the new aliens. And Ripley's in this kind of weird space because she's trying to remember all her thoughts. She's struggling with her humanity. She's also very strong now, and she can heal quickly and different things. So that's a kind of fun thing about this movie, is she's kind of super Ripley in that regard. And then Ripley's been cloned by the Walmart Corporation, who actually bought the Wayland Corporation, since this is a few hundred years in the future. And the government is now helping them do this weapons research project. And there's soldiers on the ship and creepy scientists and doctors, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. Now they're doing tests on the aliens, and this quirky crew of pirates smuggles a bunch of people that are frozen to be infested with the aliens, so that the government and the scientists can do their research, and they're on this spaceship. So again, you have that alone in space theme going on, and there's nowhere to run. But the pirates are actually a lot of fun, and Ron Perlman is one of the pirates, and so is Winona Ryder. But anyways, eventually the aliens get loose, and it's this huge mess, and the pirates are kind of the good guys now, and they're trying to get off the ship, and then the ship's heading to Earth, and they got to figure out how to blow up the ship, and there's this huge amount of just action and tension going on. And even the pirates, they figure out Ripley's not really human, and they're going back and forth. Should they kill Ripley? Should they not kill Ripley? And there's all this kind of side plots going on. This film's quirky, and it's got kind of a comedic tone to it, but also a disgusting film. I actually think this is one of the more disgusting films in general, as far as the aliens and the tests that they're doing and different things. But it was written by Joss Whedon, and it's just got such a different tone than any of the other Alien movies in the whole franchise. And that is really kind of fun and unique about it. With that said, the third act is a complete mess. There's all these weird things that happen, like the alien queen decides to, instead of lay eggs, give birth to a single super alien, and it gets into all this weird stuff where the alien thinks Ripley's her mom, or its mom, I should say. I don't know what gender it is, but I mean, it just gets really weird the more you get into the film. And I think the weirdness is why so many people just despise this film. The franchise has always had a horror tone to it, and this is definitely the only one that has a comedic tone. Well, unless you sort of count Alien vs. Predator, that I'll get into on actually my next review in the franchise. But I still wouldn't say those movies have a comedic tone. This one definitely very comedic, and this one's just complete opposite of anything you're going to see in the rest of the franchise. I will also say that the CGI is a lot better than the last film, but still a little spotty in certain parts, and you're like, couldn't they done a little bit better? And the acting is probably not top tier. There's definitely, it's so bad you can laugh at it sometimes with this film, which I do enjoy in certain movies, and this one I definitely really do enjoy it. And some of it is I just think the actors, they're people I recognize and know, and I think it's so much fun. I mean, I adore Ron Perlman. I think he's just hilarious in almost anything that he does. So he's great in this film. But yeah, you do have kind of that element as well where the CGI is still not top notch, or the practical effects like they were in the first two films, but they are an improvement of the third film. And, you know, the acting, it's got its moments where it's pretty laughable, but overall you would just enjoy the characters. All right, let's get into a few of the themes. And at this point, there's not tons of new themes really going on. It's the usual suspects. The first one, you have the government, and they're doing all these shady experiments. They're trying to cover up that they're murdering innocent people to do alien tests, and they're trying to build this bioweapon, which is probably not in the best interest for humans, given just how quickly these things can spread if they ever got to a very populated area. And again, you also have the whole being trapped in space. They're on a ship again. There's nowhere really to go. And then this time, you know, they need to blow up the ship because it's heading to Earth. And so even if you do get off the ship and there are some escape pods and you get to Earth, well, this ship's going to crash land on Earth and just start infesting people. And, you know, everyone's pretty much in agreement that the human race won't last very long if these things get on the planet. But that does bring us to two kind of newer themes. And the first one is, this is the one where the whole human race is at stake, because if this ship crash lands on planet Earth, it's going to infest everyone and just keep spreading and destroy the whole human race. And that type of scale has not been seen in any of the other franchises. I mean, there's always this fear that the government's going to get one and, you know, misuse it, and in this film they do. But this is the first time you really feel like the human race is being threatened by this alien species. And then the last new part of the film that I actually think is really interesting is just kind of with Ripley. You know, she's a clone now. She's not the same Ripley. And there's this loss of, is she human? Is she alien? Because she's got this alien DNA in her. She clearly has these non-human powers, and she has all these feelings, and she can sense aliens, all this like weird stuff. But even if she didn't have that, she's a clone, and she's got all of Ripley's memories, and they're coming back to her slowly, some of them, but you know, she's not the actual Ripley. And there's this kind of despair she's going through in it, even though, again, the film as a whole is kind of comedic in tone, but you know, you do kind of feel for her and everything she's going through. And even one of the characters who knows the history of Ripley, you know, is telling her, you died 200 years ago, you're not the real Ripley. And you kind of can see the character struggling with that. She's been dead for a long time and she shouldn't exist anymore. And that's a really interesting concept that they do in this film. All right, let's get into the rankings. And the overall ranking of this movie, I only give it 2.5 out of 5. Now, I don't think it's as horrible as Alien 3, but I definitely would not call this a good film by any stretch. Again, it's kind of a mess. It's kind of got too much comedy in it for a horror movie, though I enjoy it. And this is definitely one of those movies you and a group of your friends can watch and just laugh like it's so bad that it's good kind of thing. But objectively, it's not a well-done movie. And you can look all the way around and find holes, whether it be the acting, the visuals, music even, I think is a little off at certain times. The story, again, it's kind of a mess, but again, it's, you know, it's an okay movie. It's definitely watchable. I definitely think it's forgivable. I don't think anything in the story completely like ruins the lore. And there's another film in this franchise that I will talk about that I can't get past because of the story. But this one I think is just fine. And as far as the fun meter, I actually give it a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoy this movie. I can very much be in the mood for Alien Resurrection. And maybe it's also because I saw this film on TV one time and only like half of it. And I hadn't seen actually any of the other ones in the franchise. And I think I was like 10 You know, because back in the day, like AMC and TBS used to screen these movies, but edited versions. And I actually kind of miss those because, especially for some of the slasher movies, you know, I'm not real into watching nudity on screen. And so, I just look away. But it was kind of nice when they would be on those channels because they would skip over all the nude scenes in film. Anyways, my side rant. But this film I think is a lot of fun, and I'm glad it does exist, and that's my biggest thing with this film, and that's kind of always my bar with a movie and a franchise. Am I glad it exists? Do I think it adds something new? And I do. You know, despite it being a mess, I do think it adds something new. And again, I like it in the franchise. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in again. I really appreciate all the support. Please subscribe and follow if you have not already. Always refer friends too if you think they'll enjoy my channel. And please leave a comment. What do you think about Alien Resurrection? And if you've seen Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, let me know which one you like better, because these are usually the two that are often in the bottom that people kind of are at odds, and they're like, that's the most unforgivable one. No, that's the most unforgivable one. So I want to know your opinions on that. And all I know is tomorrow, no matter how much of a mess you might be going in on Monday to work, you're probably not as big of a mess as Alien Resurrection.